Good morning, everybody. This is Lee and Gail abroad, minus Gail. The question, I suppose, in the title is, does moving abroad help with depression? And I'm going to talk a bit more about that today. Now, the chances are, if you've clicked on this, you've either got depression, suffering depression, or you know of somebody who has depression, or you're a friend or a family member of mine. If you've not got depression, you're probably going to look at the title and say, sod that, there's no chance I'm going to watch a video about depression on a Sunday, the day before work. So yeah, it's one of those titles that's not really going to drive a clickbait and get the numbers on the video, but it's more important than, this video is more important than clickbaits for a YouTube channel, for sure, 100%. Just to give you a bit of backdrop, a guy who I don't know in my village, our village, just to give you, it's about 2,000 people, so it's a very, very small village, committed suicide a couple of weeks back. Like I said, I didn't know him. But when I hear or see a situation like that, one of the questions that I always ask myself is, I wonder what was happening. And I think we all ask those types of questions. But another question that I would ask myself, as somebody who has suffered depression for the majority of his life, is, I wonder if it was circumstantial, i.e., has something happened in his moment in time that's triggered this situation for him where he's just started had enough? Was it circumstantial? Or was this guy, has he suffered depression all his life and he's just checked out? And I want to talk today about the difference between circumstantial depression and a depression that grips people from a young age all the way through their life. And hopefully I will add a bit of hope in this video and give some clarification and some best practices and some help for people, at least if you're not suffering depression, to be able to have conversations with those that do. Because I think this can be unpeeled and unpacked, and things can be done better than what's currently going on in society at this moment in time. This can be, to say fixed is probably a bit too far a stretch, but we can do better. We can all do better. So that's the video for today. I'm going to be doing a building up a board for a dartboard today. It's a beautiful Sunday, so. So what's the difference between circumstantial depression and a state of depression which is consuming from being a child? Well, somebody who's had depression all my life, circumstantial depression, in my opinion, would be something where something's happened pivotal. Maybe a bereavement. You may have lost your first grandparent. You may be unhappy in your job. You may be starting out in your career, and the first 5-6 years can be pretty tough for anyone. You know, it could be that you've actually achieved a certain status in your job where you're high up, and the power and the stress and that pressure is building and building, where you've really are kind of struggling. It could be where you've took on, because of your job, you've took on a big mortgage, big commitments, financial commitments, and you are financially struggling, or that you feel like you want to get out of your job but you can't do because you've took on these commitments. It could be that you've just had children. Children, hardest job in the world, sleep deprivation. You may be that your wife, you may be at odds with as to how you raise your children. That kind of, when you give them a rollicking, when they need a rollicking, versus when you give them love, that can be sometimes quite conflicting with parents. Could be a multitude of sins, but these are all circumstantial. These are all things that can happen. So you may have gone through your childhood with no depression whatsoever, through your teens, no depression whatsoever, and then all of a sudden you get this bout of depression. So they are circumstantial situations. Whereas for somebody who's suffered depression, and I'll give you the best example I can give you is I suffered depression from being a child, and I always thought, coming to Spain would be the answer. That would fix it. Vitamin D, sunshine, being in that constant holiday state, the sea, just that different culture. And when I got here, it was a bit of a shock to the system, because actually it's not. That doesn't cure depression. It will give you an ounce or a glimpse of a dopamine hit for a short period of time, but you soon get used to that. And when you realise that your relationship's great, you've got beautiful kids, you've got no financial worries as such, you're building a nice home, you enjoy your job, and there is no areas where you can point to and go, that's causing me an amount of stress, and you're still depressed, then you know full well that's not circumstantial. There's something going on. And that's where I've been at. Both situations you can actually offer hope. And again, well, that's what we'll talk about now. Is the next step is, what do you do? What can you do in circumstantial depression, and what can you do if it's not circumstantial? What can you do if everything is pretty much on point? You're happy with everything, as in you should be happy with everything, but you're not. What is the next stage of that? Is to unlocking the mindfulness to get into a better state of mind. So, with circumstantial depression, again, relating to a specific circumstance, or it could actually be a couple of circumstances. The key is so one of the big issues with depression is overthinking, overanalyzing. It's a dangerous place to be. But if it's circumstantial, actually taking time out and space for clarity to understand what it actually is that's causing these triggers is a good thing. So, for example, bereavement. There's not much you can do with bereavement. If someone's passed, they've passed. But how you think about that bereavement process is crucial as to how you move on. So, for example, if you bereave the loss in that, you're never going to see this person ever again, it's a loss in your life, then the problem is you kind of turn into a victim. Whereas if you celebrate that person's life, then you're enabling positive beliefs, and you're allowing yourself the space to think in a positive way. And the best example I can give you this is something that I've seen recently. Professional footballer is now a manager of Paris Saint-Germain. Now, he lost his 9-year-old daughter. I think it was to cancer. And he was round at his mother's house, so the grandmother of the child. And the grandmother doesn't have any photographs in the house because she just can't bear that constant reminder that she's lost a granddaughter. He sees it in a completely different sense. He sees it that in his words, and it's unbelievable how the mind of this man to be able to do this, so inspiring. He sees it that his daughter, in his words, came to visit them for 9 wonderful years. They had 9 wonderful years with his daughter. And that's the way he sees it, and he celebrates those 9 wonderful years. That is the mindfulness of to be able to hone in on celebrating those 9 years, rather than being in a state of depression on the years that you're not going to have with that child. That the power of the mind is unreal. I'm reading this book as well about the guy in a concentration camp, and he visualized every single day that he was talking to his wife. So when the SS guards were whipping him, he was barefooted and in horrendous pain and moving these rocks about. He visualized his mindfulness of, no, my wife is here, the spiritual side of it. And again, that mindfulness is strong. Now, if you're suffering depression, you'll not have the inner strength to be able to get to that mindfulness at that moment in time. But knowing that there's an option or a possibility of hope, that actually by working on the mind, that the power of the mind is so strong that you can do that, then if it's so strong to create negative outcomes in the brain, your perception is negative, it's also so powerful to create positive outcomes. So how you reinforce those learn new habits of positive outcomes rather than negative is crucial. So the bereavement one is is a classic example of, do you celebrate that person's life, or do you mourn the loss that you will never see them again? It's a change of mind. Another possible outcome for depression would, like I alluded to before, is financial. So the cost of living crisis, we seem to have always had a cost of living crisis, but at the moment in time, everyone's talking about it. And if you're in, let's say, the UK or in Holland or Belgium or in an expensive part of the world, churning life, working hard, coming home, trying to cover the bills, council tax, mortgages and all these things is one of the key factors for a divorce. Without a shadow of it, financials is an absolute nightmare. So again, asking for help with other people it may not be you actually need to earn more money. It may just be that you can actually get a bit sharper with what you're spending. So doing an income and expenditure form, looking at, do we need some of these things? Can we cut back on some of these things? And I think every family would say they do that for but just some people are better at financial management than others. So, for example, if you've got a credit card and you're paying a lot of money a month or an interest, can you look at a transfer balance of 0%? So the financial is probably a video within itself. I've always been pretty good with money management, and a lot of people I know are not. So there's a damn good chance that there could be other areas. And again, I don't want to go too much into that, but again, financial management is crucial. Job, if you're unhappy in your job, majority of people are, but they just are. But there are a small amount of people who love their job, pride in the job, it's meaningful, it's wonderful. But for those who are working, let's say, for an environment which doesn't offer much in connecting or offering you a feeling of I'm part of something big. I feel like I'm involved. I feel like I'm connected. I feel like we're all facing the same direction. I feel like I'm adding value. There's not a lot of people who achieve that. So again, it's being honest with that relationship with your job and going, I need this money, I need this job, but actually I need to work harder at moving on to another job. So my point is, these are circumstantial things that can happen to any of us at any given stage. The one that I want to talk about most, though, is one that affected me, which is not circumstantial. So it's a depression that from my child, where everything seems on paper to be absolutely perfect, but actually you feel depressed and there's no hope. So you can't improve your finances, or you can't change your job because actually you're happy, your job's great, your finances are great, you're great, living in a great location, everyone's healthy, and you're still depressed. And at that stage, that's when you feel like the walls are closing in. So what can you do if on paper everything looks to be cool and everything seems to be great, but actually there's something inside you that goes, I don't know what it is, I just feel depressed. And that's what we'll come on to next. Right, so we've talked about circumstantial depression, so something that's triggered, something that's going on in your life that's causing you to feel down and low. But what about those who, like myself, where everything's on paper is great and actually you still feel depressed? Now, how this came about for me to realise that my awakening on this was when I was a child, I was always ill. All through my adult period, if I was to always get 3 or 4 colds every year, and every cold would be at least 3 weeks, and it was just horrendous. And I meet other people like my wife, for example, Gail, and a few other, where they just never seemed to be ill. And my dad was always ill, and some of his daughters and sisters, they were always ill. And every time, my grandfather, he was the same. He used to, in fear of somebody coming through the house with a cold, because you'd just get it. If you were on an aeroplane, somebody had a cold, you just got it every single time. Where some people, they can sit with somebody who's got a cold, and there's absolutely, they just don't get it. And you're like, how is this possible? And it was always down to the immune system. So I always knew that I had a very, very poor immune system. And then when I moved to Spain, I started to get migraines and acid reflux. And acid reflux is a huge indicator that there's something not right in the body. So if you ever see anybody with an irritable cough, generally speaking, it's because there's something not quite right in the gut. So This went on for quite a few years, and I spoke to my mate Carl, who works in a hospital in Sydney, and he was like, Lee, your gut is probably the issue here. You've probably got candida or some type of bacterial infection and overgrowth. So he told me what to do with the diet. So it's coming off the processed foods, basically. And that includes coming off sugars, including fruit, for a period of time. I eat fruit now, but that cured my migraines and my acid reflux like within a day. It was surreal. So, but what it did was that path, it enabled me to start thinking more about or doing research on the gut. And then when I started doing more research about the gut, I came across a guy called Gary Brecker, who was talking about the MTHFR gene mutation. Now, this MTHFR gene mutation is something that carries down through your genes, through your family. So you tend to find if you've got a few people who have got depression in the family, not circumstantial, but just they feel depressed, it could be that there's a gene that's more than likely that's passed through your heritage line. So the good news with that, though, the real good news with that is that I always felt like my family had the depression gene, and that depression gene doesn't actually exist. What exists is the MTHFR gene mutation. And the MTHFR gene mutation basically means, in summary, doctors can do an awful lot more, better explanation than what I can, but is you're not extracting your minerals from your food. So, for example, when me and my wife could be eating the same amount of food, exactly the same diet, but her immune system is significantly better than mine because mine is not able to extract the minerals out of that food. So my immune system is always poor. It's never running. It's never optimized. And if your immune system's not right, if your gut bio's not right, the brain also then doesn't work correctly as well. And this was the penny dropping moment. Now, they reckon in America, between 60 and 70% of people have at least one form of the MTHFR gene mutation. I'll say that again, between 60 and 70% of people in America have at least one form of the genetic gene mutation. The good news for this is that if you can take a supplement called methylfolate, which you can buy off Amazon, which is about 25 to 30 quid and lasts you about 3 or 4 months. Not just that, but then you clean up your diet, you come away from the processed foods, you're starting to eat food that your grandparents or their grandparents would recognise, all these E numbers you get rid of. You start going for walks, you start looking after yourself better. By doing all these things, your gut bio starts to work for itself, and then actually it gives the brain what it needs. And what that then does, it gives you clarity of the brain. So all of a sudden, all those great things that you had in life, you can then look at them with a level of appreciation that you could never see before. You will still, a lot of people who have this gut bio problem, deficiency, you by nature will be overthinking. You will overanalyze every single conversation. Everything at work that's going wrong, you will overanalyze. If you're going through a marital breakdown, you will overanalyze. If your kids are struggling, let's say at school or through education or whatever, you will overanalyze. And this kind of overanalyze all the time, it's like it's just dragging you down all the time. So by getting your gut bio correct, by giving the gut what it needs, then the brain is functioning. Then you can start making better decisions. You can start to think more on a positive aspect, and it's just a positive circle that goes round. So you then start making better decisions. You start looking for jobs that's going to be more conducive to a more meaningful life. You start to think to yourself, well, can we move to another a place where we want to move to? Or you start to think that actually the home that you've got, let's do it up and let's make it our little a place of paradise. So you just see the world in a completely different lens. You start to see, when you go for walks, you start to see the birds and the trees, and you start to see the waves coming in and out, and you just think, wow, is this how normal people feel? Is this and it's just a beautiful experience. So the thing with this, though, it's not a case of just going buying methylfolate off Amazon, although that would be my first step for sure. You need to be then looking at your other mineral deficiencies. So another one is vitamin B, another one is vitamin D. So of course, moving to Spain, if you're going to get more vitamin D, you're going to feel better. But moving to Spain or moving abroad is not going to just fix depression in on itself. Just getting more vitamin D does not, although it does give you dopamine, which does make you feel better. So in England, if if you're going on a nice Sunday afternoon to a nice pub and the sun shines out, you just do feel better. There's no doubt about it. But that's a short period of time. To be looking at a meaningful life of positive thinking on a permanent basis, or generally as permanent as it can be, then you've got to be looking at good walk, go for regular walks with your wife, with the kids, take them to the park, making sure that your diet is at least 8 of every 10 meals are conducive to looking after your gut. Moments, I mean, you say meditation to some people, let's say in the 50s, and be like, you've got to be joking. But reading books, or when you're looking at social media, he's looking at positive things rather than negative things. That type of stuff is also another factor. So I ask myself, when I hear of somebody who's committed suicide, I wonder, was it circumstantial? Was it something that's happened in their life? Or was it that the gut bio, they just didn't have a clue about the gut bio? Because even to this day, if you go to doctors, they will not talk about the gut bio. You've really got to do your own research these days. So in the next 5 years, things are going to change. There's going to be more and more information coming out about the gut bio and about the MTHFR gene mutation. And there'll be a penny dropping moment and things will improve for sure. But if you're not suffering depression and you've clicked on this video, hopefully it's going to give you a lot more information to be able to have good quality conversations with those who are suffering depression, or at least being able to understand what they're going through and to be able to help shape what's going on. It may be a case where you can help them in the CV to get a better job, or you can help them with an income and expenditure if they're not very good at money, or you can help them talking and listening with them at the bereavement. But what if it is a gut bio situation, and what if by you just recommending the methylfolate mineral from Amazon, that could be the game changer. So hopefully today is helpful. It's a really passionate subject of mine, because I've gone through it all my life, and I know what bad looks like, and I know what good looks like. I've not had depression now for about 3 years, and that's the longest time I've ever gone through. It does work. It does work for sure. Of course, this environment helps, but again, if you're in a better place of mind, you make better decisions, which leads to better outcomes. But these things do work. If you want to reach out to me, absolutely no problem at all, whether it be on YouTube or Facebook or in private, go for it, no problem at all. I'll always happy to help people out in these situations. But other than that, have a wonderful day. Research mindfulness, research power of the mind, research the gut bio, walk and eat healthy, and just keep it simple. Happy weekend, everyone. Speak soon and look forward to the next video. Share, hit like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. Okie dokie.